of Choo-Choo and the Doctor, only on Spartans Illustrated. Again, my name is Paul Fanson, otherwise known as Dr. Green and White, and I am joined today, as I have been at the early part of every week or this year so far in Spartan Sports. I'm joined by Jehuu Caulcrick, former Spartan tailback and also new color analyst, color commentator for Spartan Radio. How is it going, Jehuu?
It's good. I had the opportunity. Sorry we couldn't go last night because I was out there supporting everyone in the state of Michigan's Detroit Lions. So it was a good game. It was an electric atmosphere. It was really cool. Detroit really does it well for Monday night games and all primetime games that they have there. They really, show up and show out.
Yeah, it was definitely a good game. Now, were you just there as a fan, or did you have some sort of media responsibility there?
No, just as a fan, just had an opportunity to kick back, have a couple of pops, and enjoy the game.
Understandable. Yeah, I've only gotten a chance to do that at some Spartan events, fairly rarely. I was able to go to a exhibition hockey game, and I had to have a pop just because I could. So that definitely makes sense. So I guess we can jump right into the most recent result on the gridiron for the Spartans. Of course, Michigan State went down to Bloomington, Indiana, to face the number 3 Indiana Hoosiers, which is something that certainly in my youth I would have never thought would have come out of my mouth, that Indiana's ranked in the top 5 in football. But here we are.
Right.
And unfortunately, the Spartans go down by a score of 38-13. I thought that it was a game where the teams kind of traded punches early. But then there was that sequence where Indiana was able to get almost like back-to-back possessions at the end of the first half and the beginning of the second half. And at that point, they sort of were able to pull away and, keep the Spartans kind of at arm's distance for the rest of the game. I was wondering your impressions of the loss down in Bloomington.
Yeah, just like every Spartan fan, they were impressed with the first 2 drives by Michigan State. Going down the first drive, scoring 3 points. Then, the defense let up 7, so then it's 3-7, and then they had the opportunity to go back and respond again, and score a touchdown on that. And so it was very impressive. Those first couple drives, and just like you alluded to, and like you said, it got away at the end of the first half. Therefore, Indiana was able to jump up a couple scores, to put a hole that the Spartans are insurmountable to come back out of, especially with the fact that they received the kickoff to start the second half. So that was something big. But let's go through the good. Something that I thought this was Aiden Child's best football game as a Spartan.
Yep.
That he's played. Going 27 of 23, 243 yards. With a 7.4. I believe that's 7.4 average, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and with a great QBR in over 90%. That's something that's incredible. So I thought this was the best game he played as a Spartan, and that's great at that point in juncture. Now hopefully it carries to next week. We'll get more into that, but so that was something really nice to see. But the bad for it there, for the Spartans, our run game from our running backs. Aiden Childs, he rushed the ball. He had 48 yards on the ground. He had that big run, long of 64 yards. But he got a couple sacks in there that knocked his average, his total back. But that was the highlight there. But our running backs, they have to come to the party. We haven't seen a true game, from our running back since, I believe, possibly Boston College. They haven't really come to the party to do, and that's something that's frustrating. Something as a former running back, you want to see. And this week coming up, it's huge, because you talk about winners of this game that's coming up that we're going to talk about usually controls the ground game. So these guys got to come to the party from all different facets, from pass protection and from rushing the football. That's been a disappointment, and I know Coach Bonifant, Keith Bonifant, and KB. The running backs coach, have many good conversations with him. He's a hell of a coach. He wants these guys to be right, and they got to figure out a way to get it right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Clearly, the running game was a bit of an issue. Now, we also, of course, it's not just the running backs. There were some shakeups on the offensive line as well. We found out that Lepo is out for the season at the tackle position, and so that forced the Spartans to tighten their rotation down even more. Four of the five offensive linemen actually played every single snap, and then we had some youngsters, at least experience-wise, Rustin Young and Raheem Johnson, that split time at that other tackle position. So do you feel that was that kind of thinning offensive line part of the issue, or do you still ascribe that mostly to the running backs?
It's a combination, but I hold the running backs accountable for falling forward. If you have a shaky offensive line, you can't go east and west. You got to go north and south. Third and one, short yardage situations, you can't bounce it back. When the play's designed to go one way, take it and get what you can and fall forward. There's many times that Mekhi Frazier, he's gotten away with the cutbacks and hit big things. But as my grandfather always used to say, the same thing that make you laugh will make you cry. And the past 4 weeks, we've been doing a little crying because the running backs haven't been running north and south. And when Brandon Tullis came in the game, he had some really nice runs, but when he gets his big runs, it's when he runs within himself. So this is the problem with bigger backs. Him and Tolliver, they're the bigger backs of the two, run like big backs. I remember specifically, you remember the running back from Wisconsin, Ron Dane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Heisman Trophy winner, ran north and south. He went to the NFL. He tried to get cute. He started going bouncing things, going north and south, and he earned the nickname of a dancing bear. You can't be a dancing bear. If you're a big back, be a big back, know that identity and run north and south, be a bruiser. Those big runs will come from being a bruiser because guys will get tired of tackling you. And then when you're downfield, then you can put a move on them. So I'm frustrated with the running game, if you can't tell.
That makes some sense. And I'm glad to have your insight as a former running back, as you mentioned. Now, you did mention Tolliver, and I believe that he had a little bit bigger role than in past games. I think he actually took the most snaps of any of the backs. He actually got a little more run than Tullis did. So,
right.
Did you see some growth in his game, or why do you think he got a little bit more playing time this time?
Yeah, I think he had some growth in his game. I think he was, he had the opportunity to show it. He had a really good practice, that week. And I think, it was paying off there. But, Mekhi Frazier, he's still the guy. He's still the number one back. But you can't, I will say it's embarrassing to have 1 yard rushing as a running back. Just 1 yard. You can't do that. That pride has to kick in at some point in time. So, they have to, pick that up, especially this week coming up. They better be, they better be full of, vinegar, if you know what I mean, this week here.
Vinegar and maybe one other ingredient that will remain nameless. No, that's all really good insight. I think certainly the passing game was the highlight of the offense, but it wasn't really enough to get enough points on the board for the Spartans to stay competitive. Now on the defensive side, obviously it was a bit more of a struggle. I think as good as Childs looked, and you mentioned his completion at 27 for 33, which I calculated to be 81%, which that seems real good. But as good as he was, Indiana's quarterback Fernando Mendoza was actually a bit better. He put up 332 yards on 24 for 28, which is 86%, which is just an insane completion percentage for those both quarterbacks to have in the same game. And Indiana, actually, I thought MSU did pretty good against Indiana's ground game, but they didn't. But Indiana was so good through the air, it didn't really matter. They scored touchdowns on their first 5 drives.
Yeah, we reverted back to the lack of communications in the back end again this week. So, guys are going to have to step up this week. It's that simple. Guys are going to have to step up. Yeah, and we got to be better tacklers. We have to be better. We can't go and just try to make the big hit. Guys aren't going to fall down anymore. You got to wrap up. Hold up and let your pursuit get there. If you're not going to get the guy down, wrap up, hold up, go, make your body go dead so they can't go anywhere, and let your pursuit get there. You can't go and try to lay the big hit anymore. Tackling has to be better.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And I believe that even Coach Smith mentioned that in some of the interviews following the game. And that's been apparent as well, that they need to be better in that area. But at the end of the day, Indiana's pretty good. It looks like we're headed towards an Indiana-Ohio State matchup in the Big Ten championship game. Do you think that Indiana team is good enough to win the Big Ten and maybe make some noise in the playoffs?
They're a good team. They're a very good team. I don't see them. I don't see them. It's tough. I think Ohio State's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ohio State, and I think they can turn it up at the right time. Ohio State's a team that they know when to turn up their season. When they always finish stronger than they start.
Mm-hmm.
As they get going through the season, they get stronger and stronger and stronger. So I think it's going to be a tough. I think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten, and I think they're going to make some noise in the playoffs. But I think it's tough. It's a tough hill for Indiana.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Um, Well, and I guess the only other question I really have related to the Indiana game is, of course, our ongoing tracking of the quality of the media food in the at Indiana Stadium. So far, just to recap, you have Michigan State at 6.2. You had USC a little bit below 5.6. Nebraska, so far the reigning champion, 6.4, just 2/10 above MSU. So where did the Indiana Hoosiers rank in our unofficial ranking of media food?
Yeah, so Indiana traditionally they'll have a lot of sweets there. They had some. Usually they'll have like donuts and cookies and everything. They didn't have that this year. There were no donuts. There were no sweets, but they did have mac and cheese, and they had meatloaf.
Oh,
And I'm a sucker for a good meatloaf. So and it was pretty good. It was a pretty good meatloaf. So I would say Indiana's media meals was a 7.4.
oh, wow, that's a
Yeah.
strong score. That's a strong grade from the Hoosiers. That's
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's notable. I mean, so far they are, they're headed for the Big Ten championship in the media food at least. I don't know
Yeah. So
how
let's. What do we have now? We have Minnesota
Minnesota, yep, and Iowa, I think.
and Iowa. Those are the two. Oh, those are going to be good ones.
Yeah, Ford Field. I don't know if that counts. It's kind of neutral. It's a neutral site media meal, but I guess
Yeah. I don't know if Ford Field counts. So
no, probably not.
yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see if Iowa and Minnesota can compete with Indiana. I have my doubts. 7.4 that's a tough score. It's a tough score to beat, but we'll see if they can do it. Well, a few moments ago we talked a little bit about Ohio State and how they're good, but the real question will be whether they can really do the only thing, frankly, I ask them to do every year, which is beat the team that's next on the Spartan schedule, the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
So, of course, as all Spartan fans know, it's a big week. It's Michigan week. Big Blues on the schedule. I believe I saw the Spartans open up as a 13-point underdog. My math tells me that gives State about an 18% chance to win, just FYI. But what is your initial feel on Michigan in general and some things the Spartans need to do to try to get the victory and bring Paul Bunyan home?
Yeah, I think this year Michigan scoring they're down from past years. They're averaging about 28 points per game. Their Russian attack is their strength offensively for them. Justice Haynes, he's a terrific running back. He's a guy that's he has over 700 yards on the ground, 8 touchdowns, and he's had the ability. He has the big play ability to break out on some big runs as well. So that's going to be the strength of that Michigan offense is their running game, averaging 200 plus yards per game. They don't really turn the ball over much, through 5 games. They've only turned it over 5 times between fumbles and interceptions. So, it's going to be a big task there. So once again, for the Spartans defensively, tackling is going to be key. Tackling, you have to make Bryce Underwood beat you. You make that high-paying quarterback beat you. That's what you have to do for the defense. That you have to make them one-dimensional. You have to stop their run game and make them, win the game through the air. Because as we talked about, the team that wins the game is the one that usually controls the ground game. And for the Spartans, Aiden Childs has to take that other step. He has to take that next step again. Because the whole thing on that is, their Michigan's defense is pretty good. They only let up 17 points per game. That's 6th in the Big Ten right now, and 17th, I believe, in college football. So they only let that up, right, and they don't really let up 100-yard rushing. So our running backs have to come ready to play. So we have to do that. We have the wins from the receiver side of things against their secondary. I think we have more talented guys on the receiver side than their secondary can cover. So I'm excited about that. But we just have to be able to control the ground game. Our running backs have to come ready to play. Our kids have to come, ready to go.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And you'd mentioned the Wolverine running back Justice Haynes, his ability to create explosive plays. He did miss the Washington game, but it seems the word on the street is that he is expected back against the Spartans.
Yeah,
Um,
he has to come back for this game. Just like like at this point, everybody's hurt, everyone's feeling it. But this is the big game. This is the Michigan State game. You're not going to be 100% for this game, but the drawing the crowd is going to get you 100% for this game.
yeah. And as you mentioned, can Childs kind of outduel Underwood? I think that's one of the key points of the game. And I think the Spartans have a fair shot of that happening. And if Michigan's running game's a little hampered, if Haynes is not quite 100%, and if MSU can get the benefit of if they can get a little turnover luck, I think they can certainly be right there. Now, one thing we noticed last year was a very unusual year in the fact that, historically the team that rushes for the most yards wins the game.
Right.
But as I remember, that didn't happen last year because we had Nathan Carter, who had probably his best game as a Spartan.
Right.
So do you have any thoughts on it? Is there any sort of rising hero that could sort of play, at above a level of where we maybe saw him before that we should be on the lookout for if you had to pick a player?
I think the unsung for Michigan State, I think it's a guy and you're going to be like, whoa, when I say this name. But a guy that I think the coaching staff are looking to and should get involved more in the game is Krishan McCray, the slot wide receiver, doing some things with him, putting him in motion, getting him, because there's going to be a lot of attention on Nick Marsh, a lot of attention on Amari Kelly. I think this is the opportunity, this is the time that he's going to have a breakout game.
Oh, that's a good prediction. Yeah, it seems like anytime there's a big Spartan win, there is usually that kind of hero that rises. I mean,
Right.
Kenneth Walker a few years back, and there's been other heroes over the length of the rivalry. Now, one thing that's been discussed a lot, and it will be interesting, is that people complain about a potential lack of energy that they've seen on like the Spartan sidelines or in some of the losses. Especially the loss to UCLA, the team seemed really flat. Coach Smith has been criticized for not bringing a lot of energy, and I think that's just his personality is not
Right.
the same as other coaches.
Right.
But do you think he has the ability? And I think we know the answer to this, but what does he need to do to sort of harness that energy in this important rivalry matchup?
In this rivalry match, to hell with the coach getting you ready to play. Like if I'm in the locker room there, I'm not looking for my head coach to get me ready to play a football game against our crosstown rivals. I'm looking at myself. I'm looking at my teammates. I'm looking at the guy to the right, the guy to my left. We're going to get each other ready to go. It's not the coach's job to get you excited to play football, to get you excited to play a game that you've probably played since you were 8 years old, and get you excited to play a game that's getting you a free education, to play a game that's getting you some NIL money. That's not the coach's job. The coach's job is to put you in the best position, X's and O's wise, scheme wise, to be successful. The energy, that's on the players, and that's on the players alone. The coach can come in and yell, scream, do everything like that, but Jonathan Smith is not throwing a pass on Saturday. Joe Rossi is not making a tackle. Brian Lundgren is not running the football. That's on the players to execute. Execute. Win your individual one-on-one battles. If you can't tell, I'm fired up. But you have to win your one-on-one battles. It's not onto the coach. So everyone's saying, "Oh, the coach is this, the coach is that." It's not his. It's not his responsibility. It's X's and O's. Draw up the plays. Hey, if they bring a guy down, we're gonna new mic it to this other person. That's the coach's responsibility. Get the players to go X's and O's. The players' responsibility is their energy, the effort, and the execution.
Oh, that's a good.
The 3 E's.
The 3 E's. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I will be curious to see if there is some change in demeanor to Smith. I mean, whether it matters or not. The thing that kind of surprised me is I was looking back through the data earlier today. I mean, Smith comes from Oregon State. And there's a lot of interesting correlations between, say, the Oregon State Oregon rivalry and the Michigan Michigan State rivalry. It even goes back as far that Oregon State was originally called Oregon Agricultural College, believe it or not, back in the day, and
Right.
actually dominated the Ducks in the middle of the 20th century, just like the Spartans dominated the Wolverines in the 50s and 60s. And he's both been in that rivalry as a coach and as a player, and he's had success against his alma mater's biggest rival. And so I would have expected him to kind of get it a little bit, and I think the criticism that he didn't quite get the rivalry last year was fair. And as you say, maybe that doesn't matter, but I'm curious to see kind of how he handles that this time, and whether he's shown that he learned something from last year. Because whether that matters on the field, it might matter to the fans or to the donors, perhaps.
Hey, once again, the fans aren't making a tackle either. It's on the
True.
players. The fans' responsibility is to show up, be loud, be that 12th man. Do that. Don't boo the players. Don't boo the coaching staff. Come there, support your guys. There's going to be lots of recruits at this game. It's a big recruiting game. Prime time, under the lights, Spartan stadiums. Fans do their part. Coaches, do your part. X's and O's. Execute. Put your players in the best position. Players, the three E's.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned it's going to be another game under the lights at Spartan Stadium, and I think we've had, I forget, maybe 4 or 5 of these in a row that have been, night games, where before historically Michigan State has never been played at night.
Right.
So were you excited to see that? Do you like this, other than your work schedule, I suppose, is affected by this, and maybe that's good or bad, but do you like it as a night game?
You know what? Anytime you play under the lights at Spartan Stadium, it's special. Now it's that specialness is wearing off a little bit because there's a lot of night games at Spartan Stadium. But I remember back, when I was there, when we had a night game, they had to rent lights and bring it in and hoist them
Yeah.
up over the stadium.
Yep. I
So,
remember those days.
but it's special. I probably would have liked a 3:30 game. That way I can do a little celebrating afterwards as well.
Yeah. That makes sense. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating after this game. But yeah, that it is a little tough when those, you wind up leaving the stadium closer to midnight on
Right.
those later games. That's, I can't stay up that late anymore. Actually, I can, but I don't want to. So clearly, you're fired up about this rivalry, which is great to see. But I mean, I think it's fair to say you probably didn't grow up a Spartan fan. I mean, I know that you came to the United States, I think, at the age of 9, and I believe your family lived in upstate New York
Right.
in your sort of formative years. So what was your kind of first introduction to the rivalry as you came onto Michigan State's campus?
The big, my introduction to it was my first year. First year didn't even play in the game, but so I was redshirting, and just the former players coming in talking about this game, the fans talking about it, and at the time too, like Michigan State wasn't successful against Michigan then, but there was still that hype, that buzz, that anticipation, and the fans were different. These are new age fans now, because I'm telling you, like back then, Spartans weren't successful, but the fans were ready to go and riled up to, play these guys. There was no fans saying, "Oh my God, we're gonna get beat, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that," like the new age fans are doing now. So I'm calling out the fans as well. Yeah, you can get in my inbox and get mad at me. But yes, but so that was the thing. But the real big one was my redshirt freshman year at Michigan, the triple overtime game. Where we had that game won, and Braylon Edwards had the big, 3 touchdowns and everything of that nature. That's when it was like, yeah, we let one get away from us, that there, and just hearing their fans go into that stadium, and first of all, it's a dump of a stadium. It's not very loud. It's a stadium that if you have good seats, good luck. Don't drink too many pops, because you're gonna have to walk 80 yards to go to the bathroom in that stadium, and the fans are just obnoxious. And one of the players was my best friends, Mike Hart. Very good friends, and we played against each other in high school. Ron Bellamy on the coaching staff there. Him and I have had a few pops together and everything, but I can't stand those guys. I can't stand them. I do not like them. I won't go to dinner in Ann Arbor. People tell me there's a lot of good restaurants in Ann Arbor. I won't go to dinner in Ann Arbor. I've been to Ann Arbor 5 times, 2 to play and 3 for broadcast, and that's it. I won't go to Ann Arbor. My son's birthday is today. He turned 1. We had a birthday party for him on Sunday, and my wife wanted to get this gold #1 balloon. I said, no, we're getting the silver one. We're not getting anything like my daughter. All her blocks, there's no blue or yellow. She's not. She doesn't know those colors. So, yeah, I can't stand those guys. If you can't tell.
I That's incredible and amazing, and I love it so much, Joe. Um, I think I do remember that game in 2003. Was that the game where Drew Stanton got injured and
Yeah,
had to leave the game?
yeah, 2004.
Oh, that was 2004. Okay,
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
first. Okay, so that's your redshirt freshman year.
Yeah, Drew
Um,
Stanton got injured, had to leave the game. Damon Dowdell came in.
mhm.
DeAndre Cobb had a big game,
Oh,
two
yep.
big yard, two breakout, over 60 plus touchdown runs on a play called Razor Cat.
Mm,
Line take 3 steps, the backs and the quarterback 3 steps this way, the backside guard tackle cut, front side guard tackle pull. Oh, great play, Razor Cat. He had 2 big touchdown runs on that play there, and yeah, so I remember that game specifically, very well. And that's the opportunity that slipped away from us,
yeah.
and so yeah,
Yeah.
so that's when it all started.
Yeah, yeah, I do definitely remember that game. And if memory serves me correctly, this is one of those things I think I remember, but I'm not sure. It just kind of is indicative of certain things. I feel that when Stanton went down with the injury, there was an audible cheer from the crowd
There
in the big
was.
house.
There
Yeah,
was a cheer from him.
super classy. Good job,
Yeah,
Wolverines.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
See, that's what I'm
yeah,
saying. Can't stand those guys.
yeah, I don't think I'll forget that anytime soon. So yeah, and if I was looking through it, it does appear that your time in East Lansing, the Spartans did go 0-5 against the Wolverines, which of course is unfortunate. Sorry to bring that
Hmm.
up. But it looks, if I remember correctly, or read this correctly, your senior year was 2007, which I think was Coach
Yeah.
D'Antonio's first year.
Hmm.
And you mentioned Mike Hart. And I think everyone remembers sort of at least the postseason, the post game
Yeah.
of that game. I would think one of the more landmark moments in recent Spartan history, where of course Mike Hart has to mouth off, and then D'Antonio has the response. So how aware were you guys of that kind of banter between Hart and D'Antonio at the time? Did you guys see all those clips, or
Oh
what was your
yeah,
experience living
definitely.
through that?
We saw the clips. We're in team meeting the next day. Coach talked about it. He said, yes, I said that and I meant it, because things are going forward is not going to be the same anymore. And that was the point there. And we talked. It wasn't anything that was hidden. There was no like, oh man, let's not give bulletin board material. No one cared. And you bring up the fact that you said I was 0-5 against Michigan. Yeah, that hurts.
Hmm.
If because you get these people that come and say, "Oh, what were you against Michigan? What were you against?" All that stuff. So that's what I'm trying to tell for these guys, these players right here. There's a legacy that lives with you. You can go and you can play. I played 5 years in the league, but if I'm in the locker room with someone that played Michigan, oh, what'd you guys do against us? There's that banter that goes back and forth. For the rest of my life, I'm labeled as a guy that never beat Michigan. There's some guys on the Spartans team labeled as guys that never lost to Michigan.
Hmm.
So that's which side do you want to fall on? So that's the big thing. That's that pride. That's that legacy that goes with you throughout your entire career. So yeah, that means something.
Yeah, my impression of D'Antonio is the way that he was different than any coach that I remember before him was that there seemed to always be sort of an understood expectation that Michigan State would defer to Michigan in all situations. And even if we beat them, there was always this thought that, well, but you guys are still the little brother, right?
Right,
And I feel like Coach D'Antonio came in and is like, I don't accept that. That's not true, and we're not going
right,
to be like that. And you guys are just going to have to, deal with me being better than you. And he was. He kicked their butt
right. Exactly.
over and over again. So I was just curious if you had a similar experience with Coach D'Antonio or thought on
Yeah,
his.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I guess we maybe touched on this a little bit before, but did you feel any difference in preparation in the times that you did go against Michigan?
Oh yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
how is that different than a
The
normal game?
from everything from lifts, it was more intense. From the walking up and down in the facility, it was more. The secretaries were more intense. They answered phones with more brash. Like everything was more intense. Practices were fired up, ready to go. Guys yelling, screaming. Scout team having performances of their lifetimes. Just to say, hey, I was a part of helping. It's that whole saying when I believe it was JFK. He took a visit to NASA, and he was walking, back through the hallways, and there was this janitor. And so he stopped and he shook his hand. He's like, "Nice to the janitor. Nice to meet you, Mr. President." And JFK said, "What do you do here?" And his response was, "I'm helping us get to the moon." And he's a custodian, doing his
Hmm.
part. That's the
Yep.
same way there. These players have to do their parts because what do you do here? If you're a scout team guy, if you're a freshman, if you're injured, whatever it is that you do, you're helping us get that win on Saturday. That's that mindset that we had when we played them, and it was really it was really cool. It was really intense, and when it was all said and done, win or loss, you took a moment to just exhale because you were just exhausted from the entire week, not just the game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And your story of the janitor, that kind of reminds me almost of a Tom Izzo type story that, that was something that he would tell. So, well, and I wonder again, you have a lot of experience with the Michigan State rivalry, and there's, a lot of things that are entered into the lore, some stories that may or may not be true. So I guess, did you have any other fun or crazy stories about the Wolverines, or stories that, are, things that they say that, are not true, or other things that maybe fans don't know about?
Stuff I can't say on here.
That's fair.
Yeah, they always used to come to East Lansing to hang out and party. That we never went there. So,
Mm.
what does that tell you about our student body?
Yeah, that is true. It's a little different crowd there in Ann Arbor, definitely. Um, all right. Well, was there anything else you wanted to talk about? Either probably not the Indiana game, but any other closing thoughts on the Wolverines and the Spartans' chances this weekend?
Yeah, just from a former player standpoint to the fans again, this is Saturday's big. You're the 12th man. Come out there, support. Let's have that stadium packed with green and white, not that maize and blue color there. Let's have it packed with that, and let's be proud. We're gonna go out there, and at the end of the day, come back carrying our shields, or we're gonna be on it. But we're gonna leave everything on the field from players' standpoint, coaching standpoint, and fan standpoint.
That sounds good. Well, hopefully the team will take your notes. It should be a good game as it always is. I think the 10-point spread seems a little high to me, but we'll see. Because it's a Michigan State rivalry. Anything can happen, and hopefully it will for the Spartans this weekend. So,
Exactly.
all right, Jehuu, well, I appreciate your time as always. We'll go ahead and wrap this up now, and we'll see everybody on Saturday for the big game. And until then, I'll close it as we usually do with Go Green.